friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and today I thought I would tackle a long overdue video that I've been promising you guys for a while, and that is on our homeschool curriculum choices for this year. So just a little background on how we homeschool. We don't have very clear start and stop dates with our year. We tend to school year-round for the most part, and we just take breaks as we need. And so the children, sometimes they'll finish some curriculum at the end of the calendar year and start a new thing in January. Sometimes it might be the middle of the summer when they switch over. It's just whenever they complete the curriculum. So some of these choices that I'm going to give you, they've already been working through for a year and will be switching very shortly. This is just where we're at right now as of October 2021. We did take a little break through the canning season and just started back up in, the end of September. We've been going for about 2 or 3 weeks now. I guess 2.5 weeks. We're midway through this week. So for 2.5 weeks, we've been kind of started back up for our fall start for school. And there were some new curriculum choices that we began. And so I feel like we're in a good rhythm. We've decided if we're going to continue with some of these items, and I feel safe in sharing what we've chosen for the year. So if this is something that interests you and you want to see what we've chosen to use, why don't you stick around? All right, so I currently have 4 children that I'm required to do school with every year. I'm required to report them, notify the state that we are our intent to homeschool them, and we have to, make sure that they are at grade level or whatever that means, I guess. So that would be my 2 older boys and my 2 girls. So Gabriel is 14, David is 12, Grace is 10, and Elizabeth is 8. So they are all doing school. They don't fit into clear grade levels. I always get sort of tripped up when someone asks me what grade they're in because they kind of are all over the place. They might be doing a grade ahead in math. They could be a grade behind in language arts. They could be right on grade level for other courses. So we just kind of work at their pace. As I mentioned, they work year-round. So whenever they finish up the curriculum, they just move on to the next level. And that's what works for us. So I'm not going to go by grade level per se as I share this stuff. I just wanted to let you know their ages to give you an idea of what we're working with here. My next youngest son, Levi, turned 5 in April, and he's expressed interest in beginning school. I find that the more children I have, the more common it is that my youngsters want to begin school earlier. And so while I don't necessarily pressure them to begin school at a certain age, I let them lead me. And so when Levi expressed interest in being a big boy and wanting to do school like his big siblings, I began very slowly. And he has number recognition, so we were able to begin a 1st grade math with him this year. He does not have all of his letter recognition and letter sounds down, so we will not begin a formal language arts curriculum until we begin working on that. So I'll show you what we will use for him as he reaches those milestones. All right, enough with the background. Let's get started. This is what we're using for school this year. Okay, let's start with math. Math is one of my favorite subjects to teach. I loved math growing up, and so it's been something that I've really stressed as important for my kids here in our school. We use Saxon. I've been using Saxon math since I began homeschooling nearly 9 years ago, I believe. Saxon is a wonderful curriculum, and I believe up until 2 years ago, I used it for all of my children. And then about 2 years ago, I had the 4 older children all in different levels of Saxon, and I was finding that it was taking me almost an hour to grade their daily work every night. And I knew it was something that wasn't sustainable for me. And so we've looked into other options for higher grade level math, things that the kids can work at more independently to save me that hour time every day. But for the younger level math, I just love Saxon. And so Levi has begun Saxon Math 1, and he will use this up to level 3. He's the 5th kid that I've taken through this program, and I just love it. It's great. And so this is a consumable workbook that he uses. I never buy the teacher guides for this. I just buy these student workbooks, and every day he rips off a little worksheet and I go through it with him and we explain any new concepts. Since it's such basic level math, the teacher guide is completely unnecessary and a waste of money. I can look at what they're asking of him here and explain it to him. And so until he's able to read independently, this is something that he has to sit down and do with me. It takes us no more than 10 minutes. He loves it. It makes him feel like a big boy, and it's great. So all he needed to begin this was basic letter, or not letter. He needed number recognition, 0 through 10, and he could begin this working with me, and we'll just go from there. So yes, he's 5 years old and would be in kindergarten. This is Saxon Math 1, but he is perfectly capable of doing this. So that's what he will work on, and he will do those workbooks up until Math 3. After Math 3, he will begin teaching textbooks. This is what I'm doing now with all of the older children. We made the switch a couple years ago, and it was one of the best decisions I'd ever made. So like I mentioned, a couple years ago, I reached a point where just the amount of time it was taking me to grade each of the children's work in their 4 different math levels was just not something I could continue to do. And so I looked at many different options for math curriculum that would allow the children to work a little more independently, and we settled on teaching textbooks, and I do not regret this decision at all. It's one of the best homeschooling decisions I've made. So this we do not have home internet in our house for the children, so we buy the used old CD-ROM sets, and that works great for us. The children just, put the disc in the computer and they work at the lessons that they need. This computer-based curriculum gives them a lesson each day, and it goes through them. The computer goes through the lesson and the information, and then it gives them their work that they need to do. The children complete that work, and then because it's computer-based, it's automatically graded for them right there. So the children can see the work that they missed, and it explains why they missed it, and helps them, figure out what they need to work on. And then my rule in the house is if the children get below a B, so if they get a C or below, they need to come get me, and I go through the lesson with them and help them review it. But I find that very rarely happens. The lessons are very thorough, and this works wonderfully for us. You do need, with the CD-ROMs, you do need an internet connection in order to install the software initially, and so we had to use a hotspot on our phone to do that for their computers. But then once it was installed on the computer, they don't need internet access at all to do their work. And so this has been a huge blessing for us. I do not regret this decision, and this is what we will continue to do until the kids reach upper level math, where they will probably begin dual enrollment in a college of some sort with their math levels. So great decision for us. Highly recommend it. If you have any questions, let me know. I would love to help you figure that out for yourself. Okay, so let's move on to the next subject that we really stress here in our house, and that is language arts. So starting with Levi, like I said, he would be in kindergarten at age 5, and he's expressed interest in starting big boy school, but he does not quite have all of his letter recognition or his letter sounds down yet. And so we're going to hold off on language arts for him until he's ready. But once he does start, what we will use, and what I have always used with all of my children, is My Father's World. I used the 1st grade curriculum for kindergarten. With my oldest son, we did the kindergarten curriculum for him when he was age 5 to 6, and just found that it was kind of too easy for him. And so we moved up to 1st grade, and it was perfect. It's the perfect fit. So as soon as the kids have that letter recognition down, they begin this curriculum. There are little worksheets that they do every day, and there is a separate little Bible reader that comes with it that we really enjoy. Each section or unit, I guess, has some scripture. It's kind of a condensed version of the major Bible stories for children to learn, and they learn how to read through it, and then their phonics lessons are related to, the scripture that they're reading. And it's just a great little program. Like I said, I've already used it for 4 children with great results. Levi will be using this as well just as soon as he's ready to begin learning how to read. So that is our most basic level that we're starting at. And then once we move out of that, the children move to master books. We've been using master books language arts now for about 2 years, and I'm pleased with it. So they go from that My Father's World grade 1 usually into Master Books level 2, these language lessons for a living education through Master Books. Elizabeth is currently on level 3. She's 8 years old, and she started this last year when she was 7 and is almost done. I think she only has a few more lessons to go. So this is what she is working on now. And then once my kids complete level 3 in this, we move on to this series called Everyday Spelling. I originally found this series, there was a local elementary school, a Catholic elementary school that was closing down, and they had all of their unused books and supplies for sale. This was maybe 8 years ago that I found this sale. And so I went there and I just bought tons of stuff because it was like $1 a book they were selling things for, and so I just stocked up. And I bought a bunch of these in different levels, and I just loved them for Gabriel. And so it's something that stood the test of time, and now I can get them on Amazon and use them for the other children. So like I said, after Master Books, they moved to this Everyday Spelling. Each week, it gives them a set of spelling words to work on. And what I like about it is that they're written in cursive, so it is kind of helping them with their cursive practice. So in order to be ready to use this, they do need to have cursive knowledge, and I'll show you what we use for that here in a minute. But it gives them their spelling words, and then it has all sorts of little grammar information. They learn how to proofread and use all the common proofreading symbols, and then it does other language arts type lessons like dictionary skills, all sorts of things like that. And then some of the lessons are actually related to different topics like geography or history, and they'll learn a word list related to those different topics. So just a wonderful curriculum. I really enjoy it. I currently, Grace, David, and Gabriel are all working at different levels in this, and they continue to work through this until they reach high school level language arts. So once they get to high school level language arts, which Gabe is kind of on the cusp of right now, we move to Institute for Excellence in Writing. And so Gabriel is doing this. He's been doing this for about 6 months now. And what you do, this is a great writing curriculum. They actually have a DVD set for kind of beginner writing lessons that we put my older boys through when they were probably, how old were they? Maybe 10 and 12. And so my girls will do that here in the coming, maybe in a year or so. But that was great, and we kind of fell in love with this company through doing that DVD curriculum. And so when Gabriel reached the point where he needs to work on his writing skills a little more to prepare him for the college level courses that he plans to take in the coming years through dual enrollment, we needed a specific writing curriculum to help him. And so this is what we chose. And the great thing about these writing courses is that they usually pick a specific topic to base all of the writing lessons on. And so he chose modern world history based writing lessons. And through this, he's learning about modern history. There are a bunch of wonderful fiction books related to different history topics that he had to read as part of this curriculum. And then each unit gives him, a writing assignment that he has to work on, and I help him, proofread that. And it's just a great curriculum, and we really enjoy this. And this kills 2 birds with 1 stone because he's getting some history knowledge while working on his writing skills. So, all right, hopefully through all of that, you understand how we progress through the levels and which curricula we use. Let me know if you have any questions about that. That was kind of confusing. Okay, so I did mention cursive. That is something that we stress for our children, and we like for them to be kind of fluent in cursive and reading it well by 4th grade, because as I mentioned, grade 4 is usually when they'll begin using the spelling curriculum that they need to have that cursive knowledge for. And so we use various cursive books, little cheap cursive workbooks that we find online, Amazon, and in the description below I'll have my whole homeschool resource portion of my Amazon storefront linked, so you can find all of this stuff there. But this is the one that Elizabeth is currently using. It's just each day she practices a different letter, and then as she does it, We kind of work together. I have wipe erase cursive cards that are also linked in the storefront that she uses as practice if she needs a little extra help. And we just go through and learn the letters. I don't know if you can see behind me, I keep a poster of the cursive alphabet up on the wall so that they, as they're doing their work and writing, if they need a little bit of a reminder, they can always look up and find that there. So that's really helpful. And that's how we introduce cursive. And then once we get to the point where they know all of the letters and need more practice, we move on to some just copy workbooks. And we've done all sorts of different copy work. Before I did this one last year, I had one that was riddles and jokes, and the kids really loved doing the riddles and jokes for their copy work. Right now, the older three are doing this Bible verse, cursive handwriting practice. It's actually for adults, but it's great for them. And so each day, you know, they get a verse up here, and then they copy it in the cursive. Oh, and then I write them little notes. Aww. So yeah, this is just, they do this maybe twice a week. Once they know their cursive, this is just something that helps keep those skills fresh for them. So just a couple times a week, they do the copy work, and that works great. I know a lot of schools moved away from teaching cursive. It was something that I just found valuable. I enjoy still writing in cursive to this day, and thought that it was a skill that maybe my children would need in order to read historical documents, or, you know, read notes from their grandparents that they get that are written in cursive, things like that. It just, why not? That's why we homeschool them, is that we can choose what we want to teach them. And so that is something that was important to me, and I found to be valuable for them. All right, speaking of really valuable information for the children, we do Bible lessons. Obviously, we're a Christian family, and so what we've been using for the last 3 years is this Through the Bible in a Year. What is it called? The 1 Year Bible. We have the Bible. There's actually a little study guide that goes along with it that you can use if you want to kind of dive into whatever the scripture reading for the day is a little further. But each day it gives you a reading from the Old Testament, a reading from the New Testament, a portion of Psalms, and then a tiny little proverb for the day. And it's just wonderful. It's just enough. It takes us maybe 25 minutes to read it, and maybe longer if we get into a really wonderful discussion, which is usually my favorite part of our homeschool day. And it's just a great time. We do this as a read aloud together as a family. I'll set the little boys up with, you know, some coloring books or some kind of activity, and they're generally in the room while we're reading, but usually not listening. But the older ones are all listening and engaged, and this is a great way to start our homeschool day. So this is what we do as Bible together. And then a little more in depth, the children then, starting in about 4th grade, Grace and Elizabeth just started this a couple weeks ago. My older boys just finished up their level of apologetics over the summer, I believe. And so we've been doing apologetics with them for a couple years, and it's just been wonderful. So we use master books for apologetics. If you're not, if you don't know what apologetics is, this is just teaching children sort of how to defend their faith. They learn some of, basically it'll pose questions to them about scripture, and then we'll help them kind of dive into scripture to answer those questions. And so it's just a beautiful thing. We love it. This is 4th through 6th grade, but it's working really well for my girls right now that are 3rd through 5th. And so what they do is each day they have a little, let me find one, a worksheet that they have to do. And they have this volume of books. It's called the Answers Book for Kids, and there's a set of maybe 8 books. And so each day it gives them a topic. So like the question for this day was, how did God create everything from nothing? And then it gives you the answer next to it, usually based, it starts with a scripture verse and then, you know, kind of an explanation. And it gets the kids sort of thinking critically and learning how to answer those big questions that people are going to be asking them for the rest of their lives, or that they may be asking themselves. So it's just a wonderful curriculum. I love this. And as I mentioned, my older boys have gone through this Master Books Apologetics curriculum, and now it's the girls' turn. So once the boys finished their apologetics, what they moved on to is this master book's Introduction to Logic. And they just began this a couple weeks ago too. And it's a wonderful little curriculum. There's a book that comes with it that looks, the cover looks just like this right here. And it has chapters, each on a different topic relating to logic. So logical fallacies, things like that. And they're just learning a little bit more about critical thinking and logic. So they'll read the chapter that's required of them, and then it'll have, some short answers that they have to think about and write out. And both of these curricula that came from master books that I just mentioned, the apologetics and this, they have a lovely teacher guide that comes with it that has all of the answers in the back for me to help with grading or to have the children grade themselves. So just great. Can't say enough wonderful things about master books. We have used different electives from them, like this logic and apologetics. We've done geography curricula from them. Both boys have done a science curriculum from master books, and all of them I've been pleased with. I think I have yet to have an elective that we've done that I haven't enjoyed and the kids haven't enjoyed. So I will link these below, and you can look into master books if you're looking for a good Christian Bible-based curriculum for your children. Okay, let's get into some of the other subjects that we cover as a family. And so history is something that, as I mentioned, as the children get older, like Gabriel, he's doing specific history lessons with his writing curriculum. And that's what all of the children will do as they reach those higher levels of work. But when they're little, what works great for us is reading through Story of the World together. We've been doing this now for 8 years, and I just love it. There is a set of 4. This is volume 3 in the set, but there are 4 books in this set. They start all the way back through ancient history and go all the way up to modern times. And each chapter covers a different topic. And it'll give you maps, any, related maps, and kind of will highlight any vocabulary that you need to cover. And it's written like a story, so it really engages the children. We would just read that chapter aloud. The children ask questions. We have our map right here on the wall, so a lot of times, we end up pointing to things up there as we're reading through, and it just works wonderfully for us. There are activity books that go with this curriculum, and for the first couple years that we did it, when we were doing ancient history and all of the children were really young, we did the activity books. And so as I was reading aloud, I might print off the corresponding coloring sheet, and then there were like little quizzes that you could do and things, and we enjoyed that. But as the kids got older, I found that those weren't necessary, and what they really enjoyed was just sitting and reading it together and discussing it. So lots of great discussions have come out of this. I can't recommend it enough. And it's just a really easy way for children to digest history. And I have learned a lot through it as a mom, so you will love it, I promise. And then every year, the children and I tend to pick another topic to kind of do as a group lesson all together. Some years in the past, we've done a whole year of nutrition, and we've studied that together. We've done anatomy lessons together as a family. And this year, the children chose geography again. We did this when my older boys were maybe in like 3rd and 2nd grade. And we did a whole geography unit one year on the continent of Africa. And every week, we chose a different country in Africa. We went to the library and we would get books on that country. We would learn all about it. We would learn what foods, and try to cook them at home if we could. Learn about, the people there and the religions that they practice, and just all sorts of things about that country. And it was just amazing. And so we hadn't done it in many years. And Gabe came to me and said, can we do another continent? That would be really fun. Let's do Asia. And so that's what we chose to do for this year. And so once a week, all of us get together and we choose a country in the continent of Asia. So far we have done Afghanistan, India, Tibet, Sri Lanka, North and South Korea, and Japan. And our next topic is Mongolia. And so what I do is I kind of plan 3 weeks at a time or a month at a time, and we go to the library and I take out 4 different countries worth of books and bring them home so we're prepared for the coming month. And I just get these books from the children's section of the library, and even though some of my children are a little older, I find that a lot of these books cover enough of the pertinent information for the unit that we're doing. So these books will talk about history, they'll talk about the economy, the lifestyle, they'll give lots of pictures of what, you know, indigenous people look like in that area, what the major landmarks and attractions look like, all sorts of things like that. And so what I'll generally do is the night before I'm going to give the lesson, I read through the book and I make a list of the important topics that I want to talk about. I'll put it up on the whiteboard, and then the next day we'll sit and just have a discussion about that country together. And then sometimes if I can find like related documentaries or DVDs at the library, we'll watch those together. If there's a food that that country is really known for, we might make that for dinner sometime that week. And it's just a neat way for us to learn some geography. The kids really enjoy it. Great discussions happen, and it's just neat to learn about different cultures. We've had some friends online on Instagram that live overseas in some of these countries like Japan and South Korea, and they've sent us boxes with you know, currency and flags and different goodies and treats from those countries, and it's just such a blessing. We've really enjoyed that. So Asia's going to keep us busy for a long time. There are a lot of countries to cover, and then once we get through Asia, if the children enjoy that, maybe we'll move on to another continent. So that's what we're doing. This kind of encompasses geography and social studies for us for the year. Okay, so the one subject I haven't covered so far is science. We get a lot of questions about, do we use formal science curricula? And there have been years that I have. My kids have taken earth science. One of them took a zoology class from Master Books one year. And we just kind of play it year by year and see what the children are interested in learning about. This year, we're not currently doing any formal science curricula. As I mentioned, as group work, some years we've done whole units on nutrition or anatomy and other science-related topics, and that's been wonderful. But really, we get our science from just living on a homestead. So this coming year, the children are going to be really heavily involved in gardening, and what I'm planning to do is write up a specific gardening curriculum for the children that will give them tasks they have to do each week, and those will be related to different topics in science. So for example, they might need to test the soil before we begin the gardening season to see what we need to amend the soil with, and through that testing they'll learn all about pH and different topics like that. You know, there's the planting and the harvesting and all of that. I mean, it's just so much science on a homestead. We're going to be butchering ducks and chickens here in the coming weeks, and there'll be lots of science in that process. So anyways, I have never felt the need yet in these younger levels to do formal science curriculum, really, unless it's something the children have requested that they do. And as my son, he's in 8th grade right now, as he enters high school level, we will look at some upper level science courses for him, obviously to fulfill his obligations on his transcript if he wants to go to college. So that's how we cover those subjects. And then a huge part of homeschooling for us is giving my children time to pursue their individual interests, and me, you know, providing the resources that they need to do that. And so each of the children this year have different things that they're working on. For example, my son David, he loves baking. He wants to be a baker when he grows up. So he has been since probably last spring working through this Baker's Fun Schooling Journal. It's adorable. It just gives him different baking challenges he has to do. It required him to choose maybe 8 cookbooks for the year, and each week he has to find a new recipe in one of those cookbooks and try to make it and then review it, right? He learns how to write a review of that. He watches YouTube videos that have cooking tutorials and things, and then he has to write about it and rate those tutorials. Just really fun stuff. And so obviously as an allergy family, we have to adjust some of the recipes that are in here, but that's also good for David. He's, you know, really good at learning about or really good at making substitutions to make any kind of recipe safe for our family, and so that's also part of his education. So if you have a kid who likes baking, this is a really fun, informal way for them to work on those skills. And then the other thing David is doing this year is he wants to create a cookbook. And so a friend who's actually in the process of writing a published cookbook, it's actually like being printed off as we speak, she said that her publisher recommended this book for her. It's called Recipes into Type. It's just a handbook for cookbook writers and editors. And so, oops, there was a dime inside of that. I don't know how that got in there. Anyways, I bought this for David, and so part of his schooling this year will be reading through this book as he's writing his cookbook. So there's that. And then, for example, Gabriel loves computers and computer programming, and his big project for the year, he's learning how to use Python. It's like a coding and programming language. And so he goes to the library and takes out books. He just took one out a couple weeks ago, and he's learning how to plug video game controllers into this Python coding language. It is way above my head and not something that I can help him with, but I'm very grateful for YouTube because there are a lot of really smart computer programmers and people who speak that language out there that put the information out there for people to consume. And so I just preview the videos to make sure they're appropriate for him, and then I can set him up with those YouTube videos to make, to learn whatever he needs to learn. And then, I've mentioned many times that Grace loves to sew, and so she has a whole lineup of projects she's working on this year, and so we make sure to carve out time every day for her to do that. And then Elizabeth is still trying to figure out what her kind of niche is. She's only 8, and she likes a lot of different things, and so she has time every day to explore. They watched a movie last night that had a spelling bee in it. And the kids were like, wow, that looks so fun. Let's make our own spelling bee. So they currently took a spelling book that we have in the house. It's called Spelling Power, that gives a bunch of different lists. And they're upstairs right now playing spelling bee. They're quizzing each other on words. So providing them with that time in the day to play and explore what they want, they're still learning. I would hate to go up there and say, okay, girls, let's stop learning about spelling right now so you can come downstairs and do what I want you to learn. That seems really silly. So that's the only reason I was able to get this video done today, was because everybody was upstairs so busy with these wonderful projects that I thought, I'm not going to interrupt them. I'll take a couple minutes and go over the curriculum, and then maybe by the time I'm done, they'll be ready to do their schoolwork. So I think that's it for this year. Hopefully all of that made sense, and if you have any questions about what we've chosen to do, let me know. And yeah, so homeschooling is a joy and a blessing to us. We really enjoy it, and I'm just, there's nothing quite like learning alongside your children. So I can't encourage you enough. If you're someone who's been kind of considering it, or you're worried that you won't, know what kind of curriculum to use, and you're overwhelmed and you think you won't be able to do it. I mean, I just provided lots of examples of curriculum that do the work for you. So for example, if math is something that's holding you back and you think that I could never homeschool because I can't do math, well, use teaching textbooks and it will provide the lessons and the grading and all of it for you. So many resources like that out there. It's just such a blessing to be homeschooling in this day and age, whereas I can't imagine what it was like a couple decades ago, where a lot of this support and community and everything wasn't out there. There were definitely not as many choices. So you can find whatever it needs to fit your particular family culture and just find a way to make it work for you. That's what we've done, and this is just where we're at for this year. Like I mentioned, we school year-round, so who knows what it'll look like 3 or 4 months from now. Children get interested in new things, and they say, hey, Mom, I really want to learn about science. I would love to learn about chemistry, and I'm not going to get in their way of learning that, so we will definitely find a chemistry curriculum that would work for them, and we would do that too. So this is just where we're at in October of 2021. And I feel really good about this. It's a doable amount of work for us every day, and we've just been enjoying it. So, all right, I'm going to quit rambling and go check on the children. I hope you're having a great week, and I look forward to talking to you again. Bye.